How hard did you push it till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? This is the same crew. This is Ashton, Hussy, JD. We're here to have a little post-mortem about our four-ball qualifier that we did at Baylands. We appreciate the love and support, even though we came in DFL, which we'll discuss. It seems like simply trying seemed to resonate with a lot of people, so that means a lot. But gentlemen, Chris Hussey, how you doing? As you're on mute.
I am doing well, Ashton. Thank you. I just got back from my sister's wedding down in Ojai. Got to play Soul Park, the venue of the cookout.
I've heard of that place.
Yep, for the first time in about a year. Place is looking great. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Blender, how are you? The last time we talked to you, you were in a hotel room in Atlanta on your way to Augusta. So how are you? How was the Masters? Is Scottie Scheffler as good as he appears to be? It seems the answer is probably yes. But on the ground reporting, what did you see at Augusta?
Yeah, man. Good to be home for a little bit. Excited to head out next week and have another long week on the road, culminating with the cookout. So certainly excited for that. I would say that the whole trying resonated with a lot of people. Super proud of you guys for putting yourselves out there. Tournament golf is certainly a different animal, and it can always go one of two ways, especially when you don't play well, of kind of that desire to get back and do it again. And, the other direction it can go is just hating the game. So it sounds like you guys are in a good spot. I do want to address the monkey in the room, or the elephant in the room, whatever it would be called. I am sitting on the floor right now, just in case anybody is watching and is wondering. House is in a little bit of transition and was trying to find a decent spot. So I have a laptop sitting on top of an upside down den caddy, and I'm sitting on the floor. So if you see a plug behind me and a light switch above me, it's not some sort of weird home situation, other than the fact that I am literally sitting on the ground. Masters was
okay. Blink twice if you're okay. It's like yeah. The safe house has been infiltrated.
Masters was great. Such cool experience. It was my third time. 2005, I went for a practice round, was 16, 17 years old. A little bit different when you're, kind of being toted around by your parents and you're kind of a wide-eyed teenager. Last year, obviously wet and rainy, so a little bit of a different experience as well. Was joined for a few days by our good friend Greg Payne and his parents, which was super cool. I've known Greg for about a decade now, and it was my first time meeting his parents. I also heard that he called his mom after meeting me and was unsure as to whether or not he liked me very much. So that was a fun story to hear about. Also not like a odd story when you consider how we met, but got a good kick out of that. As far as Scheffler goes, man, it was interesting sitting there. Like, yeah, of course he's as good as it looks, and he hits it better than everybody else, and the ball striking stats are staggering. I was talking to a buddy about, he was saying that Scheffler is obviously the best player on the planet and clearly the best ball striker on the planet. And depending on how you want to pick your poison, strokes gained stats seem to be a pretty good way to choose who's good at something and who isn't. And his strokes gained number tee to green is as good as we've ever seen, including prime Tiger Woods. Now, give me prime Tiger Woods over just about anybody, but man, if that dude just putts mediocre, he's going to win every golf tournament he plays in. The funny thing with Augusta, especially with as good of shape as it's in, it felt a little bit in ways like 2019 when Tiger won, where he just sort of outlasted everybody, right? I mean, it wasn't, obviously, Ashton, I know you've been, there's a couple of unique things with Augusta being there, and one of them is there's nothing digital. You can't have your phone. None of the scoreboards are digital. They're all hand operated, and it's just like the scoreboard you see online, right? Where they don't put your score, they put your score relative to par as your score on a hole. So if you make a birdie, a red number goes up from a green 0 to a red 1 is a birdie on that hole. So you don't see as much golf as you do on TV. You guys probably have a better perspective of how Scottie played if you watched it than I do sitting there. But it felt a little bit like, he made a couple of mistakes. He birdied some holes that you should in some ways birdie, and he birdied some holes that you'd have no business birdieing, like birdieing 8 on Sunday. Cool. Birdieing 9 on Sunday, he had a good drive. I can see it. Everything can kind of funnel to that hole. It's one of those, it can go either way. You can make a double like Morikawa. You can make a birdie like Scheffler. But backing that up with a birdie on 10 I know the pin low left is generally kind of where things sort of funnel, and he didn't funnel it. He just threw a dart. And I was actually walking down left of 10 green at one point and had this random thought. Do you guys remember, was it Jeff Maggart that ended up in a playoff back in the day against somebody on 10 and hit it way left on 10, down kind of left of the green? Dude, it is dead over there. Like dead. You're 30 feet below the green. You got all these trees and slopes to deal with. And I'm not kidding you. If Scottie misses that shot by 3 yards left of where he hit it, he's not all the way down there, but there's no real rough. Like he's a good bit down, with nearly an impossible up and in. So some of that is just, yes, he's better than everybody else. And some of that is, it just sort of felt like he outlasted people. He didn't string together bogeys. He birdied the holes that he should. He didn't let any of the kind of gotcha holes jump up and get him. At least that's what it felt like on the ground. And the course was playing firm enough that mounting a charge was always going to be difficult. 13, way more interesting hole with that back tee box. You really got to have some stones to go for it now, not just flip a drive over the corner and hit an 8-iron in. 15 might be my favorite hole on the golf course after being there for a couple of years. How diabolical it is back behind the green is really tough to gauge until you're there. So yeah, it was a fantastic experience. We got absolutely torched by some Augusta sand on 18 green on Friday. We got our chairs front row, right side of 18 green. I was so amped to see like Tiger come through. Dude, we sat there and just took it for like an hour and a half, and then Tiger got done and everybody took their chairs and left. It was so bad. So yeah, some really cool experiences. Obviously spent a bunch of time with family and friends, and got a chance to walk, as my wife likes to call it, walk around Narnia for a little while.
Yeah, I you kind of buried the lead. I was going to ask about Friday because obviously love watching the Masters, but Huss and I were together and like we were just watching like the trees and stuff on 6, and it was like this is insane. Like this is as someone who likes to like most I think people who are golf sickos, I don't want these guys to get like it's a bloodbath, but it's fun to watch these guys like have to do different things, have to hit different shots, have to do other things. And I mean, it just felt like, an under par was like an A+ round. And that was it was thrilling to watch on TV. Couldn't imagine what it was like to be there. But I guess the caveat of like having sand in your teeth is a bit of a spin.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Huss.
It was really strange watching that Friday round and seeing people hit their approach shots into 18, and just as soon as the balls landed on the green, just puffs of sand were thrown up. It made me think of fucking Baylands on freshly aerated greens. I mean, obviously not that bad, but I was like, what is going on? Why is there sand on the greens? And it sounded like, and it looked like, I mean, that, short left bunker was just throwing sand all over the 18th green, which is insane.
And you know that I don't know if they showed it on TV, but between every group, they've got the guy with the whip out there and they've got the leaf blower and
No.
they're just, yeah, I
Oh,
mean, they're clearing it all off. So it's stuff they can't get to, right? Like it's just there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I kind of feel like a Masters that ends somewhere like 8 to 12, 9 to 13 under par or something like that seems to be the best Masters. Like it was firm. Um, it was playing the way that you want Augusta to play. Like it has teeth, but it can still be gettable in spots. It truly brings out the edgiest of knife edges or razor's edges around kind of how you hit shots in. We sat behind 7 green for a while and watched players come through, and there was a ton of birdies with the way that it funnels. But I mean, 7 green is small. It is a tiny little green. And when you take into account the slopes, it's even smaller than the actual square footage. So, the appreciation for how good those shots are coming up a hill to a blind green. Those guys are good. Definitely good.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you on the number, because to me it's just, I know this is kind of the classic formula, but and this is exactly what Scottie did. If you basically have a guy who's around even par on the 4s and 3s and are really kind of sharpening their teeth on the par 5s, like, and that's good watching, right? It's like, okay, cool. Like, but that's what, again, I'm sure you've probably watched some of it coming in, but what really blew my mind with Scottie at the end was, and I'm sort of saying this tongue in cheek, it felt like for him on that back 9, it was just whatever number he needed to get to, in the sense of like him going for par 5s where he just, I'm not making fun of Rahm, but like everybody else, I watched the Rahm as prepared. Rahm on 15 with the conditions not nearly as spicy, hit it down there. No reason to get too cute. And Scotty's like, I'm just gonna hit a 3-iron in the middle of the green and make birdie. And it's like, oh, and we've talked about him being inevitable, but that's the moment where it's like, cool. Like if it got any closer, I think he could probably just have continued to press. Cars going 75, 80, 85, 90. It's not going 75 to 100. It's just like, I'll press a little faster, and I've got enough horsepower. I can just keep going. And I think that your 2019 comparison is, I said the exact same thing. I was at home, I was watching with Liz, oh my God, they're all at 7 under. This is so exciting. A couple guys just, fall apart, and he's standing on 12. And I look at Liz and I said, he's going to hit this directly over the middle of the bunker. He's going to 2-putt, and this tournament is over. That is exactly what happened. And that's exactly what happened to Tiger, right? He was not going to make the mistakes that Brooks, Molinari was not going to do it. He has enough experience, and he's a good enough ball striker to execute the shot and get it done. And it's exactly what happens. But I think, especially now that we have the context of the RBC, like Scheffler, like everybody else, doesn't really do it for me in the sense of like, I don't know, he's like pretty vanilla and some of the stuff. But I'm now all in on, like, I love watching greatness, and like I'm all in on Scottie. It's like, it's just, this is so much fun. And it's crazy because it, like, I didn't play well the last time I played golf. But watching him, I'm like, I'm going to go shoot like 69 tomorrow. It's like,
yeah, it seems easy.
Let's go do it. Yeah, it's like, what are we talking about? Like, we're making this so hard. Like, it's like you watch him and you just like, yeah, let's just go shoot 300 tomorrow. And that's not how it works, but it's crazy.
If it makes you change your mind a little bit, the dude loves to talk shit.
It does help.
Which I didn't know. And it came from I'll call it a reliable source, not, I didn't see it, but, apparently he, not in like, in a way that you would expect from a guy that comes across like in a very genuine type of way, similar banter to how we would be on a golf course, right? Just loves to needle and has a little bit of an edge to him. And, I don't think we see that, but at the same point, I guess in some way, I don't know if you get that good at anything without having, a little bit of dog in you.
Yeah,
I don't know. So, I'm on the express train to Nellyville right now. Holy crap! I mean, I can't stop watching. Just, it's insane to see both PGA Tour and
Yeah,
LPGA
how are we
have
getting
at
this at the same time?
superstars.
How
I don't
are
know.
we getting this at the same time? It's crazy.
That is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
The probability, like if you were to say like of that, is like we're in the upper right hand box of like this is not supposed to be happening once, much less twice.
Speaking of greatness, tell me about your round. First and
Our round?
foremost,
Our
yeah,
round?
first your round. First and foremost, I want to hear. Okay, set the stage. We know Baylands had punch screens. Great, let's forget it. Everyone had to play the same conditions. I'm sure there were some bobbles, some hops, some whatevers that nobody liked. But I told you last time we talked that I wanted to hear two things at the start. I wanted to hear. We'll just go in chronological order. How'd you guys feel on the first tee? Hussy, start us off.
I felt
he
so
started us
good.
off all day.
I felt so good. We had that conversation that you recommended after you asked
Very
us,
helpful.
figure out who's going to go first. And I responded with, we're not even sure if we're taking carts or if we're walking. So we eventually had that conversation, and I said I want to tee off first on every hole. So they said our name, and I stepped up there and striped one, and then Ashton stepped up there right after me and striped one dead center of the fairway for the first hole. So we felt good. We felt really good, I think. The warm up was good. I felt like we were both hitting it really well. We got to the practice green just to see what it was like, and it was weird. It was obviously something we weren't used to, but everyone had to deal with it. So it's not really an excuse we can really use, but it just was a bit jarring. Overall, I think first tee, I was feeling great, and I think Ashton could probably concur.
Yeah, I do have a statement about the greens later that I think fits into the back nine, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I think honestly, like all your suggestions were helpful. Where we got to, I think we pulled in exactly an hour early, enough time to kind of go to the bathroom and warm up, and the timing kind of felt perfect. We didn't do anything differently than we would have done. Yeah, and I think the big thing that I'll remember, and I think this kind of set the tone for how I'm continuing to feel, is we hit those shots and we walk off, and our playing partners are kind of doing their own thing. I mean, they were awesome, but like they were kind of doing their own thing all day. They were like, "Yo, do you guys mind if we like have the Masters on and stuff?" We're like, "Yeah, man, that's fine." Like they were just very casual. Like, I mean, it worked. They ended up qualifying, but like they were just pretty casual in a way that like was fine in some ways. There was some stuff where like we could have been those guys, where there was a couple times they're like, "So where do we hit it? Like, what does this hole do?" And it's like, I mean, we can't really like tell you that, man. Like, like, there's some stuff where it's like, oh, like, save it out there. So, but I think the biggest thing is we both walked off and we were barely to like the forward tees. And I think we both actually just kind of expressed gratitude for being here. It was this beautiful warm day in Palo Alto. We had all these factors. Hussey had to go like last minute go to LA and had to fly in and shipped his clubs to Baylands. And there was all these ways in which this could have gone big time wrong. And it was all there, and we felt good. And there was just this sense of gratitude. And I think we even said like, this is the first of many, many, many of these. And yeah, I think that up until we got to that 11th hole, I think we were actually just very, very comfortable. And actually we made this stupid joke because I kept talking about the par train because our goal was pars, right? We actually pictured you, like, because I say this affectionately, you kind of look like, like the blonde generic emoji of the train conductor kind of looks like you, right? And every time I make a par, I just go like, yeah, exactly. If you're on video, it's Hussy. And every time I make a par, I'm just like, I kind of fake look at my watch and I'm like, the conductor, like, he's loving this. We're super on schedule. Or there was one hole Hussey missed like a 3-footer for birdie, and I was like, we're still super on schedule. Like there was never a birdie was like never in the cards, like we're so fine. But it actually kind of like gave us this like centering, and so we made the turn at even par, and we were just kind of humming. And so I think the first like 2 hours was just like, yeah. I mean, I was definitely a little nervous when it was my turn, like the natural feelings, but I was very comfortable from the time we pulled in until about 11. I was like very comfortable. But I think that gratitude is something that I think we're going to continue to channel, because it was like, this is so cool that we're getting to do this,
So I want to touch on something or go back to something because you mentioned that the guys you were playing with were so casual, right? We talked about it before pre-tournament of trying to treat every round the same, right? And that either means however you normally would play your best. It doesn't mean that every round has to be super serious and you can go out and still, have a hit and giggle round here and there with your buddies. But generally speaking, if you play your best with the Masters on and going out and having a hit and giggle with your buddies, like you should find a way to play tournament golf like you're going out and having a hit and giggle with your buddies. That's not me personally. I actually played this weekend and played with a buddy, and we didn't put anything on it or anything like that. And I played horrid. And I thought about it halfway through, and I'm just like, I just don't play good golf anymore when I don't have a reason to try to play good golf. I end up like being like, oh, I wonder if I can hook a driver like around the corner, or maybe like I should work on hitting a really low fading 2-iron. And it's like a 470-yard dogleg left par 4. And I'm like, that's the good time to pull out a 2-iron. I don't know. I'm like out there without any focus, right? But some people do play better when there's sort of nothing on the line and trying to figure out a way to make tournament golf whatever it is for you where you play your best. So I think that there is a kind of a lesson in there. But Ashton, your commentary brought me to, I do want to hear kind of how you guys felt walking off the back nine, walking off of 18 green. But so you were, I don't know how the round unfolded. So you were even par through 9 holes. What'd you guys shoot?
80.
So 80 was dead last.
Yep.
That's honestly, I guess, best ball. That's just a little surprising to me.
Well, we should give a caveat, and this is important. We did not look this up. Rick did, our buddy Rick. Shout out to you, Rick. But afterwards, he went through and actually started to look at the people we were competing with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean this in a pejorative way to us. It's just numerically for handicaps. We were the worst team by a lot, apparently.
Really?
Handicap wise, I think we had the 2 highest handicaps, and it was by I'm just going to say significant click because I didn't look into it. But Rick said there was a +7 in the field.
Yikes.
Which again, whatever. But I think we'll get into this, but this is going to be my thesis statement. I don't know that we would have qualified, but legitimately a 180-second or 3-minute window was the difference between us coming in DFL and us being right there. That 3-minute window is what totally changed our entire round. But ironically, what you just mentioned though, JD, how we walked off is, because we finished, we birdied 2 of the last 3 holes. I'm actually proud of how we kind of battled, Hussy birdied 16, I birdied 18. It was just a 5-hole stretch where it's to use the boxing analogy, you have a plan to get punched in the mouth. We got punched in the mouth, and then you kind of look down and it's oh my God, half my teeth are out, and am I gonna go to the dentist, and what are my, oh my God, what's my dental insurance? And it's you're still fighting. Stop thinking about your dental insurance, because and we couldn't do it. We were both kind of short circuiting in different ways. But literally that 3-minute window is what just kind of we just got a Ali haymaker right in the face.
How many teams qualified?
16 out of 37.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what was
two under made two under was, there was a scorecard playoff at 2 under.
Yeah.
And some guys shot 10 under, which I'm telling you, we're not being babies when we say this. We made 3 birdies, and all of our birdies were putts. Were they were this.
There's always there
wasn't a putt to be
insane.
made. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, it's sometimes the plink goes in, sometimes the plink goes out, and there's a lot of really good golfers on the planet, man.
Totally.
+7, I have a hard time almost believing that handicap without it being somebody that's a like, shit, I feel like we should know that person.
Corn Ferry Tour player. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
But yeah, there's a lot of people that can go out and just dig it freaking deep, and you go back and you look at the golf course, you're like, that number didn't feel like it was out there, at least not for me. But it is for some. I mean, okay, so par 72, 73.
It's 35-37, right?
So par 72. So you guys were 10 shots out of qualifying, but at the turn at even par,
we were T22. I think I remember Jack posted it. We were T22.
You're kind of right there.
We were.
100%.
We were.
So what happened? Where did you mention the few hole stretch? Sorry, Hussey, go ahead.
Yeah.
So what happened was we came off 9. We were even par. We're feeling good. Marshall says, "Hey, group in front of you, we've told them to speed up a little bit, but it's the group ahead of them that's kind of slowing things down." So it was kind of like a nudge to get us to keep going, kind of play a little bit faster. So we get on to 10T and we both hit 2 drives. Ashton's is fine. Mine's a little left, but okay. And there's a Marshall out there spotting, and we get to my ball.
Well, there's two. There's actually 2 NCGA officials up there.
Yeah. And one of them, and I get to the spot where I think my ball is, and the guy goes, "It's somewhere in this area. I saw it bounce, but it didn't go into the hazard, so it's in this long grass." Mind you, there's a lot of long grass, just kind of native grass being grown up. And so I go, "Okay, well, let's look for it." And he goes, "I'm going to start the clock." So he starts the 3 minutes, and we start looking, and he goes, "No, I know it bounced right here." And there's 2 marshals or 2, officials looking for it with me and one other person, and we just can't find this ball.
It almost hit the guy's tire on his cart. That's what we're talking about. Like, it almost hit his tire.
And he still couldn't find it. Like 2:55 seconds into it, he says, "Okay, I found the ball." So we find the ball. I identify it. It's mine. They let me play it. Everything is fine. But we've just kind of burned a lot of time. And so I think we both make bogey on that hole. And we go to the 11th tee, and we're a hole behind. So we're just trying to speed things up a little bit at this point. I pull a drive left.
Well, and one piece of context, and if y'all are listening, we had a great time. This is not meant to drive by shoot, but like, our playing competitors were more deliberate than we were. Let's just put it that way. Like,
they were. And so 11th hole, I pull it left. Ashton kind of pulls it right.
We knew you were fine. We knew you were fine. We saw your ball bounce. Like, we knew Hussey was safe. We weren't sure about my ball. Hussey was safe.
And so I'm kind of with the other 2 guys kind of in the same area. They all both kind of pulled it left. And so we're looking for our balls. We all find our balls, but this one guy in the other group is calling, animal holes and all this and wants to drop. And so I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm just going to play because we're behind. Is it okay if I play out of turn because I'm like 5 yards ahead of him? He says, "Go right ahead. I'm still trying to figure this out." And I just kind of had a shot that I thought I could get to the green, and I tried to do the hero shot, and I hit it without even thinking about checking with Ashton, who was still looking for his ball wide right of the fairway, and turns out we couldn't actually find his ball. So within a span of like a minute and a half, I had hit a ball that I shouldn't have tried to go for the hero shot. I should have conferred with Ashton and just maybe punched out, which would have been the smarter thing. And as a result, I had to then, because I didn't hit the hero shot, I had to drop. I had to take it unplayable because it was in some really, really nasty, thick stuff that just wasn't, I would not have been able to advance it. And eventually we made an 8 on the hole because the pace of play, and I'll let Ashton talk about this, we weren't playing E5 where you can, take a 2-stroke penalty and drop for a lost ball. According to the NCGA rule for this tournament, we couldn't do that. So the only option was Ashton to go back to the tee, but based on pace of play, we were just like, it was a culmination of so many different things, and us, as Ashton said, trying to figure out our dental insurance while our teeth are still on the floor during a heavyweight match.
Yeah. And that's where Well, I think that's what's hard because I mean I have to take accountability. It was one of those where like nobody had told us that we were doing anything wrong. Nobody had actually warned us, but it was one of those situations where like I wasn't trying to be like hypersensitive. I mean, I have a reputation as being pace of play guy that I'm trying to work on, but it was one of those that like when we are like 100 yards out on 10, the group ahead of us is walking off of 11. And so like it was one of those where like after I, pull it into the shit, look for my ball for 3 minutes, can't find it. And I give him credit for this. One of the guys was like, "Hey man, like you can borrow our cart, run back to the tee and hit another ball." And as I look back to 10 green, the guys are like coming off of 10 green. And I'm like, I am not gonna fucking get in a golf cart. It's not the embarrassment factor. It's like at this point, we have to be at least another hole behind. These guys are walking off. Like, we just got to keep it moving. But like, I didn't do a good enough job of like understanding, like, was Hussey actually okay? So then I'm like, you know what? No, like, and so then I kind of put the pressure on Hussey, and I could watch him like he like just speed up. Right? It was one of those where like he kind of chunked a bunker shot, clubbed a chip, like stuff he never does. So it was this situation where like looking back, if we could have done it our way, now that we've talked about it, well, first of all, we would have been in a golf cart. So in that situation, we go like, he finds his, I would say, hey, let's go look for my ball real quick. We can't find it. And I say, hey, I'm going to run back to the tee. You pitch out sideways and let's just make a 5 and get the fuck out of here. And if that happens, we're totally fine. Next hole's a par 5. We're only 2 over at that point. And again, we made 2 birdies coming in, when we part a par 5. But that moment of, us both just like interpreting the situation, and even stuff like I'm not drive-by shooting at all, Hussey, but even hearing your story of, the guy's doing fucking animal hole shit, and you're like, I'll just go out of turn. Like, you do not have to do that, right? But those moments around like, I'm not going to go back to the tee to do what I'm allowed to do because I'm guessing about the group ahead of me. He wants to speed up, so he is going to rush himself. That's where, and I think the other thing that was a bit of a problem, actually, because everything, like the first 9 holes was so mellow. It was so mellow. Like we were just like, even a hole, like there was a hole where Hussey was kind of out of the hole on a par 5. I was up by the green, chipped it on, 2-putt, chilling. Like our heart rate was at 60 BPM. And then once it started to go to 70 and 80, I could just feel the rope. Like literally I'm watching Hussey chunk a chip and I'm like, why didn't you go back to the tee? Like, why did you put him in this position? Like, what are you doing? You created the situation. Like, why did you not support him? You're like, yeah, man, you got the hole. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not good teamwork. So that sequence of, if we'd been in a golf cart, looked for my ball's not there, he pitches sideways, I go back to the tee to hit another drive. I'm not saying we qualify, but we certainly don't shoot 80. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, it's a good point. Shame on me for not walking you through it a little bit more in the pre-round, because I know I mentioned one of the hard things about playing in a best ball, which should be easier because you have a teammate, is the fact that you have a teammate, and that's somebody that you can physically let down other than yourself, right? I think that was something that we discussed a little bit. The other aspect of that, though, is if you're playing in an individual tournament, you have no choice but to go back to the tee box. You have to do that, right? Also, E5 is not a rule generally that you'll find in most big boy golf tournaments. So I totally think that lateral makes more sense than almost anything outside of a lost ball. Hussey, I thought you were going to say that that's what they were going to tell you on 10 when they couldn't find it, was it's almost a bad thing that they didn't see it go in the hazard, because if there's more than a reasonable suspicion that it did go into the hazard, then you can take the lateral versus the lost ball.
I know. I was like, well, I think it maybe have went into the hazard, and the guy was like, no, it definitely did not go into the hazard.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's where I thought you were going with that story. Those are the things that happen when shit gets going sideways. And Ashton, you already mentioned it. My question was going to be, to get you guys to think about it a little bit, someone had mentioned something to you about pace of play? just simply a heads up. We've asked the groups in front of you to play faster, and we're giving you the respect of telling you that pace of play should pick up. So just make sure you stay in position. But no one warned you. And even if they had, it's like totally get it. We've had some directional issues the last couple of holes. Like we'll get back in line. Not a problem. Right. And it's so easy to do sitting here, and it's so hard to do for anyone that hasn't played in a legit tournament before to say that. Like sitting here, it's like, yeah, like, dude, no one warned you. Like, what are you worried about? But you were looking for a ball, your heart rate goes up as you're looking for the ball on 10. You make a bogey, all of a sudden it's like, shit, we made a bogey. Like all of a sudden, conductor's no longer on schedule. We're 1 minute behind at one stop, and then, one passenger keeps the door open for 1 minute longer, and now we're 2 minutes behind, and then we hit another roadblock, and now we're 4 minutes behind. Like it just delays get going pretty quick in that. And those are the things that when you watch tournament golf moving forward, and as you play in more tournaments moving forward, every round that you've ever had, you think of your best round of golf you've ever played. It wasn't without some hiccup or adversity. Like I highly doubt that very many people that are sitting here and or listening to this when it comes out have gone out and shot like a real kind of simple bogey free 64. Like that's not a normal round of golf for 99.99999% of people on the planet. So every round has some form of adversity, some form of that stuff feels like it's kind of spiraling out of control, and being able to stay in your bubble, kind of reset the thinking, think calmly, think rationally, not try to press. And that doesn't mean, Hussy, that doesn't mean not trying to hit the hero shot. Like, I don't know the circumstance. I don't know what you mean by trying, like, I don't know what kind of shot it was. There are times where the hero shot is the right shot. It's not always, not often, I would say. Especially not in a best ball when you're the only ball in the hole. But,
Exactly.
but yeah, I mean, like golf's a game of risk and reward. No matter what, right? You could pull out driver on every hole. You could pull out 2-iron on every hole. You have the options to play it as conservatively or aggressively as you want. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing it aggressive in spots. And again, I don't know the situation, but yeah, that's a bummer that it happened that way. I didn't know what the score was, but I'm super proud that you guys held it together, made a couple birdies coming down the stretch. What, outside of that, outside of the take your time, pause, think in the moment, that whole situation you went through on 10 and 11, what's the biggest takeaway, positively or negatively? Like, what's the biggest thing you've learned or biggest takeaway from the event itself?
For me, it's not to be afraid to hit driver. I mean, there could have been a few holes where I would have on a casual round would have just hit 2-iron just to put myself in the middle of the fairway and have 160 in. But there were multiple times when I hit driver and I had a gap wedge in, like the hole that I missed the birdie putt on. Normally, I would have taken a 2-iron out and had an 8-iron in. But after hitting driver into actually a really good spot, I hit a gap wedge to 3 feet. I missed the putt because, it hit a random aeration hole, but that's okay. So I think being, and we played 2 more rounds after this, for the rest of the weekend. I was not afraid to hit driver, even though I'm not as straight of a driver as you think I am.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just being able to trust a shot shape, that was a huge thing. That was a huge thing for me.
Pretty easy to trust straight, but sure. I guess if you say otherwise, fine.
If it was straight, yes, but it's not always straight.
Uh-huh.
Another thing is that I need to work on my short game because there's, we got to, green side on pretty much every par 5 for the most part. And personally, my short game kind of let me down. Not able to, get up and down from pretty easy spots where a birdie could have been warranted quite easily.
Was that
And
poor
that's okay.
execution? Was it poor shot selection, or was some of it the condition of the golf course?
I want to always blame the condition because I think I'm great, but I'm also realizing that I don't practice my short game. So the first hole I had a very easy, bump and run, and I chose my gap wedge and I just hit it too hard, you know, and it just rolled past the pin and I had a 15-foot downhill putt that there was no way it was going in on aerated greens. So
When you say
just
you
little
hit it too,
things.
when you say you hit it too hard, when you chip, do you look at a spot that you want to land it, or do you just look at the hole and sort of feel it out? Which neither one of them's right or wrong. There's just different philosophies.
Yeah, I typically look for a spot. And like I said, I haven't really practiced a lot of that short game. So for me to hit a spot, I actually don't quite know. I think I know and I feel it, but I think I just need to recalibrate those feels to actually attain those distances. So
So
that's something that I'm taken away from.
on that shot in particular, did you hit your spot or did you fly it past it?
I flew way past it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of it is there's a reason why you see a lot of guys on tour chip predominantly with one, maybe two clubs. And it's a little bit easier to get comfortable with that. I was taught in an old school way where you kind of always fly it to the front edge of the green and you pick the club that will roll out to the
Mm,
hole. So you're just sort of always flying it just onto the green. I don't play that way because I actually think that takes more practice to know how hard to hit a 52 to fly it that far versus a 56 versus a 60 or
good
whatever your
point.
wedge
Yeah.
setup is. I tend to chip with predominantly two clubs outside of funky circumstances. It's my two most lofted golf clubs. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I do think if you're going to chip with a multitude of clubs in that kind of bump and run situation, you do need to put a little bit of time in to figure out, which can be tough. It can be hard to find good short game areas or good putting greens that allow you to chip to really understand how those balls will react and roll out. And some of that can just be nerves too. First hole, a little gassed up,
Adrenaline.
trying to hit a little chippy 52 in there. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody can work on their short game. It's good that you caught it relatively clean and it was just a little bit hotter than you anticipated. So I would take some positives away from that of
Totally.
the execution wasn't terrible. It was, I think, understanding a little bit of how your body's going to react under a little bit of the under the gun, if you will. Ashton, what about you? Biggest takeaway, positive, negative?
Well, I think I have two. One is not really in the spirit of this, but I think it's just notable. It's interesting because, so for context, we made a bogey on 10. I just kind of, nothing wrong. I forgot how the hole was, and I aimed a little bit too far to the right, pulled an 8-iron, didn't get up and down, whatever. So we go bogey, quad, bogey. Hussey hits it a really nice, like 5 or 6 iron to 25 feet and 3-putt. I hit a terrible tee shot and just kind of bowed out of the hole. I asked him, I said, do you want me to hit one? He's like, no, I got this. 3 putts, we're kind of bummed. Next hole, par 5, I make a par. Hussey hits it over in the long grass. He's out of the hole. Next hole, we make double. Hussey hits a great drive, bones his wedge over the green. Into the hazard. I hit a terrible tee shot into the shit. Par 3, I hit a great 9-iron right over the top of the hole and 3-putt. And at this point, it's like, what in? I remember we walked off and he goes, any guess where we are? And I said, we're probably DFL. And he was like, yeah, we're DFL. But we get up on the next hole and it's a not drivable, but it's a short par 4 and Hussey hits driving iron. And I thought about this is a weird story, but Tron from No Laying Up, he talks about how much he dislikes Wyndham Clark watching him because he said he gets annoyed because Wyndham Clark just aims way to the left and swings as hard as he possibly can. And at this point, we're in dead fucking last, right? And I was like, Hussey, you hit that. I said, I'm fucking hitting driver. I said, I'm going to aim way to the right and swing as hard as I possibly can. and my driver just came out like of a totally different window. I hit it in the fairway bunker, but like it came out of a totally different window, and ironically, Hussy makes birdie. Next hole, kind of a 3-wood. I'm like, well, fuck it. I kind of same idea. I had a 3-wood just again out of a totally different window, and then we get to 18, and 18 at Baylands, like you have to really, really hit it good from the back tees. You have to like really hit a good drive to carry the bunkers. Like it's the kind of thing that like I'm not trying to be sheepish. Normally I'd be like, that's not the line. I can't carry that. And I aimed way to the right, and I swung really hard, and I fucking think I had 196 in, like carried the bunkers and everything.
It was insane.
Like just like absolutely killed it. And then I was like, I'm just going to apply the same principle to a 5-iron. And I hit a 5-iron that like almost goes in for eagle. Like it was insane. Back at the green, 2-putt, make birdie. And it's one of those stories that I tell because I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I was like super tense. Because I don't think that I was. It was more than just that feeling of like, what I want to do is, and not just from a swing perspective, but I call, you know, because no laying up, they call Wyndham Clark, they call him Blow Pig because of the emojis Wind Ham. So like, that's just the mentality that I want to take. To be clear, I was not nervous, you know, outside of the normal nerves. I felt fine. But kind of what you were talking, JD, is like, I want to channel that sort of like aggression, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was hitting my driver and feeling good about it. But then when I hit that drive on 16, I'm like, You've kind of been driving around the neighborhood with the emergency brake on, and not that you were nervous. It's just I think that I kind of play golf with the emergency brake on a little bit. And you've kind of taught me that, JD, with like around like 6,600. You're like, brother, like fucking let's go, like open it up, let's go. And I think that was the takeaway for me, because I didn't play great when we played on Friday, but I hit it pretty well. Shot 76 at a hard golf course on Sunday. Have not shot in the 70s. I feel like in a long time. And there's that mentality of like, let's like open it up and just stop thinking about like, I don't know, just like, there's not like bad swing thoughts, but there's just a lot of like junk bouncing around my head. And it's like, how about we just like, with a modern driver, aim a little bit to the right and let this fucking thing go to work, right? Like stop overanalyzing this. Stop thinking swing thoughts. Let's just aim to the right and swing hard. And that's, I'm not saying that you should play, but like that mentality, like the next time we play, I want to get up on the first tee when they say my name, and yeah, I'll be a little bit nervous. I'm going to aim to the right, and I'm going to fucking swing hard, and I don't care where it goes, right? Huss and I talk all the time about, you know, process, not results, right? Well, guess what? The process is I'm going to aim to the right and swing fucking hard and hit it 320 out there. We're going to make a birdie, right?
Hell yeah.
That's what I feel like I took from it. But the actual answer is, and it kind of goes with it, is, again, I fully anticipate people might shut this off after I say this. We came in DFL and shot 80, but I walked off there being like, there is no fucking reason why we can't do this. And I don't care that we're the worst team in the field. I don't care that we're both 4.5 handicaps. We're good enough to do this. And I like firmly believe that. And I just want to channel like the sort of like confidence that we feel, maybe confidence that people would argue is undeserved. I want to channel that, like, again, that like Wyndham Clark energy into like, let's just fucking go, you know? And honestly, if you think about it, Wyndham Clark's a good analogy for us, right? When Wyndham Clark won at, what was it?
Wells.
LACC?
I was like, no, I meant, no, the first time he won at Wells.
Okay.
Yeah, Wells Fargo. I was like, who is this guy? God, oh my God, his name's Wyndham, like Wyndham Rewards, like just very hand wavy, right? And Wyndham Clark's just been like, I'm one of the best players in the world, full stop, right? That's how we need to be. That same energy of like, people are going to look at us and go, wow, this group is out of 37. These guys should finish 37th. And it's like, no, by the time we get to this time next year, I don't really give a fuck what our handicaps are. We got to channel that like, no, like we're going to be right there and feel good about it. So that's how I feel.
I kind of went into it and I didn't know the number of teams that would qualify. I didn't know the caliber of players, but I don't know if we talked about it, but it kind of felt like even par would have a shot. That was kind of my general thought was you go out there and you shoot even par, you got to feel pretty good about it, which honestly, not too far off, right? A couple shots out of it. You know, might have been a few teams in that ballpark, but for you guys to go shoot 2 under, I mean, shoot, you're even par on the front. Hussy, what hole number was the little 3-foot missed putt? Was that on the front 9?
6.
Yeah, I think that was 5 or 6. Yeah, 6.
Yeah, so I mean, you make that putt like
Uh,
you're one under and you're trending right towards a scorecard playoff. So there's no reason to think, and I think anybody that judges you on a number that you put up in one golf tournament, in one round of a golf tournament, right? Keep in mind that outside of some illegitimized tours on the face of the earth, like a golf tournament is 4 rounds.
Yeah.
So for you to put up one bad round, where some stuff went haywire in a circumstance that you all don't handle, that none of us handle a ton, has no bearing on the quality of golfer that you are. And we talked about that in the last time we spoke, where it was the chances that you go out and play in one or two or even 5 golf tournaments in a year, the chances that the game just shows up the way that you want it to for those 1 or 3 or 5 rounds is a little bit of dumb luck. Like you really can't control it to a certain extent. So you guys happen to go out and from the sounds of it, for call it 16 holes, 15 holes, played golf that was very much good enough to qualify. And yet a couple of funky things happened that made the score look probably worse than the round felt outside of a couple of moments. So I don't think anybody, from the sounds of the comments that everybody has had so far, like I don't think anybody's going to say anything differently other than like, hey, we all have jobs. Like go out and try to do it. Go out and try to do it individually. Go out and try to play in some other 4-ball stuff because it is a little bit different. And just know that no matter how good the field is, right? It sounds like this was a really good field and relatively small at 30 some odd teams. You go out and shoot even par in a qualifier where they're going to take, 10 plus teams, you're probably going to have a pretty good chance at making it. So you really shouldn't at any point in time feel like you need to press. Just play your normal games and keep going. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of you guys.
Thanks. And the other thing too, I was thinking about preparing for this that I think is important. So we obviously talked in detail about 11, right? What went wrong. The thing I think it's also important for us to really kind of marinate on is like I have like one specific story where like I feel like we really did something right. Too, because yeah, sure, like we made pars and stuff, but I remember there was a hole at Baylands number 7. Sorry, the hole Hussey almost birdied is 5. That was the hole. But number 7 is like a short hole. Like I guess it's drivable, but you really shouldn't with how they have the red stakes and the green caps and stuff. But our playing competitors had we both made bogey on the hardest hole in the course. And they were pretty frustrated. And I remember that on that tee box, it was, I guess it was their tee, but like they were like marking their ball. So we went ahead and hit. We were very logical. I think we both hit 200. I hit my 4 hybrid. He hit his driving iron exactly in the spot you want to. One of the guys like blew his hybrid like into the crap left and was out of the hole. The other guy took 3 wood, which was entirely the wrong club, but he didn't know that, I guess, because they hadn't played there before. And I remember we walked off that tee and we knew our ball's right on the middle. And I remember I just, because I wasn't trying to say this to them, obviously in any way. But once we got far enough away, I said, hey, like, I feel like their energy is flipping and we got to not ride that wave. Like, because they had made bogey. The guy was really pissed about hitting in the shit. The other guy was mad about the bunker. Like, you could just feel that they were like, not on tilt, but like, we had a pretty like cordial, like, okay, like y'all are a couple under, we're even. You could just feel the energy shifting. And I was like, I don't care what happens. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And Hussey had a really good wedge to like 12 feet. I had a wedge that went in. It was literally like, it was sitting on the edge of the hole. And we walked off and I was like, fuck yeah. And then the next hole is like a very, very hard par 3. Hussey, it's like this beautiful draw to like 15 feet. But it was that moment where like we had the awareness to like read the situation around us, be like, again, and those guys actually, I give them credit, they turned it right back, made birdie on 9. They ended up shooting 4 under. So, but like we could sense that something was changing. We acknowledged it. We said that we were not going to like get caught up in that if the car started to flip over. We made birdie. And that's one of those moments that I think like, it's so easy in golf, right? To always be like, yeah, but this happened. And you're always, it's kind of like Hussey was talking about putting, right? You'd walk off and be like, I'm such a bad putter. I'm such a bad putter. You don't talk about the 5-6 footers you made. You just talk about the 3-footer you missed. Okay, we talked about 11. We've analyzed it. We've picked it apart. Awesome. But let's like channel that energy from 7, right? We had awareness. We talked about it. We acknowledged it. Made birdie. We've, cool. We're back to even. Conductor, who made the conductors like thrilled with us, and that's the kind of thing we need to channel as well. Like, again, we're focused on 11, which is important to analyze. But holes like 7 are equally as important. And I think that kind of positive energy is important to give us credit as well. I think we did a great job on that hole to kind of acknowledge it, move on, make birdie, and get out of there, right?
There's a reason why, like, listen, some cliches don't stand the test of time, if you will. Like, they just sound horrid. The one shot at a time thought process is so simple in theory. All that it is
the AI
culmination of all the shots that you hit added to a total. And no shot should be given more weight than another. And no shot should be hit with a thought about what has happened or what will happen. Right? Because realistically, if you made 7 birdies in a row, it doesn't change the difficulty of the tee shot on 8. Right? Like, fundamentally, it's the same golf shot as if you made 7 bogeys in a row. It's so easy. It's so easy. It's such a simple theory to sit here and talk about it. And I think that even one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is if you take like an aerial view, like an aerial shot of a golf course, right? And if you kind of know what the yardages look like, you can map your way around it, right? You can almost say like, I'm going to hit it here, I'm going to hit it there, I'm going to hit it from here to there, kind of dial your way, kind of draw your way around a golf course. And I feel like, and I'll talk from my personal vantage point, I can't speak for you all, but I feel like there's times where you step on a golf hole and you try to force something. Like you try to hit a driver a little harder than you can. You try to hit a shot that maybe you're not as comfortable with. When in actuality, right, you're trying to do something with that shot that may or may not determine what you make on that hole. So some of it, Ashton, that you mentioned of not caring about the result, right? Just swinging freely. I think some of it is also just kind of this idea of plotting your way around a golf course, right? You make a quad, okay, can't do anything about it. I can't go back and replay the hole. All I can do is step up on the next tee and if I'm, again, taking an aerial view, not knowing what has happened or what will happen, where should I hit this golf shot? And that doesn't change. It doesn't change if you're trying to win a golf tournament. It doesn't change if you're not trying to finish DFL. It doesn't change if you're 2 back with 2 to play. Like, where you should hit a golf ball is where you should hit a golf ball. Just kind of full stop. And how it all transpires is a mathematical equation of 1 + 1 over and over again until you get to the final number, like until the ball is holed on 18. And I think the more that you can incorporate that into whether it's a casual round, whether it's a tournament round, the better you're going to play. Because it's like you don't have to hit a perfect tee shot, right? You don't have to even hit a perfect second shot. You could hit 2 somewhat mediocre golf shots that end up going generally where they should. 2-putt, make your par, and you go to the next hole. You could hit 2 perfect golf shots to 3 feet and you could miss a 3-footer and you still made 4 and you go to the next hole. So every shot is its own thing. And it's really, really tough to do when you're in the moment and you're trying to play the game of, am I over or under par? Where do I sit? What can I do with this golf shot? So it's pretty cool that you guys were able to somewhat stay in that moment with what it sounds like a round that had some highs and some lows. And I think hopefully I'm conveying myself properly, because in my head, it's this like beautiful picture, like the beautiful mind type of. I have some sort of secret formula that nobody else does, but when you really break down one shot at a time, it's so simple and it can be so complex at the same time, which is super cool.
And I think that's the most difficult thing is just, and that's why the best golfers in the world, I respect them so much because they're able to stay one shot at a time. But for me, myself, as someone who doesn't have, let's say, the same mental capacity or fortitude as, let's say, Scottie Scheffler, of course I don't. But he has such an incredible ability to just plod his way so apathetically through the golf course and just kind of, as you said, just one shot at a time. And for us, we're so not used to tournament golf with the whole pace of play thing and, looking for balls and all this stuff. And it just gets a little bit too busy. And it's a bit difficult to stay in that moment of doing it one step at a time. But I think the more repetitions we do, the more tournaments we sign up for, whether it's just individually or as a team, it's just going to make us better. And we need to be okay with being DFL for the next 5 tournaments we play in. Like, it's okay as long as we just have goals in mind, which is to stick with the process and just play it one shot at a time.
So, last question. When's the next golf tournament? I mean, cookout aside, when's the next golf tournament?
We're going to look into that. We're thinking about the USGA mid-am or USGA 4-ball, but I don't know if our handicaps allow us to qualify for those, right?
2.4. We have to be 2.4, so we're not
Well,
there right now.
Well, I think by the end of the summer we will be.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will be
because the qualifier for that would be in the fall for next year.
Correct.
That yeah.
Ashton, are you sure on that number?
Yes, just because the Chasing Scratch guys are doing this, and it was 5.4, and this year they lowered it to 2.4. It's new as of this year. They cut 3 shots off of it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Too many hackers out there, huh?
Too many guys shooting 80. Yeah.
Well, I would highly recommend to try to channel that if you can, even if it's something that isn't as, I don't want to say legitimate, but as legitimate in terms of quality of event. Go try to apply it. And what you're going to find is you're going to find something else that you learn. And there's a reason why the guys that play in a lot of events tend to play the best, it feels like. 1, they get the most bites at the apple. But 2, they're getting more comfortable. They're understanding what it feels like to be in that moment. And it feels silly, right? Because you watch, the opposite field events on the PGA Tour and you feel like, yeah, those guys can't feel that great about it. And then we go out and play in a, NCGA 4-ball qualifier, and it's like the fate of the known world depends on whether or not I make birdie here. It's what it feels like. So it doesn't really matter how big or small the event is. You're going to feel a little bit of those same feelings. And it'll be good to keep that fresh if you can.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing, and this sounds cheesy, but I think the big thing for me was like, I kind of knew it going in, but like, there's nobody I want to do it with more than Hussy. Like we were a great team. We had a lot of fun. And the other thing too, I think, is, we communicate, even though we missed the boat on communicating that one hole, there's just some stuff, which I haven't even said this to you, Hussy, but like, I appreciate it. We were standing on, I guess it was 14, I want to say. And we're kind of sitting there like, looking at the GPS, and I was like, how you feeling? And Hussy just goes, it's like really disappointed. And I was like, man, like, I really appreciate you saying that, because it's one of those moments where, we only have like 4 holes. We're like 6 over, it's like, it's not going to happen. But like, 'cause that was the hard part. It's almost like you're, like the it's like the meme of the girl who's like trying to play the trumpet but is like crying while she's doing it. That's how it felt, right? Where it's like, we have to finish this fucking thing, but we're really upset that this has been the result. But again, then we made a couple birdies, and I think all in all we felt good. But I guess the last thing is, the only thing, this was less for us because we were too far back. The only thing that was a huge bummer, or I could have identified with the greens, was it felt like it prevented any sort of like a hero story. And I don't just mean that with us, because realistically, if you're 3 over or 4 over, right, you kind of need to be able to like, wow, I just made a 25 footer, right? Like, okay, like we got some juice. We're both decent ball strikers, but it's like, unless we hit it into a 5-foot window, it's like a complete, like, who's to say if the putt's going to go in? So in that moment, it felt a little deflating, because once we made that quad, it was like, we either need to literally have the best balls. We need to have like Scottie Scheffler ball striking for the next 6 holes. Yeah, but it's like we can't make a 15-footer out here. We just can't do that. So that's the only thing I'll say about the greens. It just felt like in that moment, the task literally felt insurmountable, because we weren't going to make a 20-footer or 2 20-footers or 3 20-footers. It was like, we need to hit it to 3 feet or else we're not going to make it. But
Yeah.
Well, just to reiterate what Ashton was saying is, I was disappointed on that tee box, and I've been working on some things with my therapist, and she says, if you feel disappointed, you should say you're disappointed, and that gets your body to process that and let you get back to homeostasis and balance. And that's what I was trying to do, and maybe that helped. But I will have to say, I don't know if you remember this. Actually, you totally do remember this, Ashton. As we were walking from the 10th green to the 11th tee box, you were trying to take a shortcut, and there was a snake on the path, and you freaked out. And I feel like that
was like rolling down the hill. Like, it was one of those where I actually had to like dig my feet in, because the push cart was going to roll over the snake.
And what we should have realized was that was a metaphor. That was a symbol of our upcoming struggle on that 11th
snake in the grass.
Yeah. And so I've just now
pulled my drive into the grass.
Yeah, and you
wow.
Yeah. So anyways, little things.
I prefer, JD, we've just told you, maybe this would be some Municipals merch. We're going to put the little blonde conductor on shirts for every time we compete. The JD conductor is going to be just the train, just pars, please. The tickets, please. Just pars, please. Yeah.
I like it. I can't wait to absolutely annihilate you guys at the cookout, but I hope to God, I didn't make shit, but I hope to God that you guys...
Big Chris calls and goes, hey, JD, should the team that won or the team that lost get the first pick? And JD said lost. And then Big Chris hangs up and goes, JD, yeah, he's a hot dog. Sorry, Chris, I'm not making something.
You don't think I knew what that call was when I got it? Like, it was a little bit of an odd call. Like, literally, Hussy, to fill you in, literally, Hussy, Chris calls me and is like, I'm going to ask you a question. You can't ask questions. You just have to answer it.
Okay.
And then he goes, team, win or lose, who do you think should pick first? And it's like, well, every other sport ever, when there's a quote unquote draft, it's the team that lost that picks first. Like, it would be the team that lost. Yeah. I knew it was coming. I looked at Katie right after that, and I'm like, I think I'm a hot dog this year. So I wasn't shocked, but I'll tell you what, I hope to God you guys are on the par train, because,
oh God,
yeah, you're going to be looking at some brake lights in front of you. If it's par trains.
And then this is like an inside joke. I can't wait to watch you at the tee shot in 11, JD.
I've been thinking about 11 so much.
That tree on the left is just like, not even in play, but I'm right here, big boy.
I am going to bring a sleeve of balls up to 11 tee box in the practice round, and if I have to hit 8-iron off the tee, I will hit 8-iron off the tee. I don't care what it is. I think I can get there. I hit 3-wood 8-iron, like a toe hooky 3-wood 8-iron in the singles round in OG cookout history. So I should be able to hit 8-iron 3-wood if needed, and just flip it around. But I am come hell or high water, guys. And what will happen is I will get to 11 and I will pull out driver. Even if I get the practice round and
It's
I'm
kind
like,
of
oh,
like
it's
how
like
this started, right? You're like, I'm gonna hit a low fadey two,
yeah,
like just miss this.
yep. I'm gonna step up and I am gonna pummel a driver at that bunker, and
It's gonna
I'm
hit
gonna
the tree, and that's it.
nope. I'm gonna pummel a driver. I mean, Hussy remembers this. I don't think our match made it to 11, the 4-ball match,
With
and
Gig?
yeah. So realistically, that tee shot might not
No.
matter.
It got to 11.
Did
And
it?
I
Got to
think that
11
was the
green?
last thought. That's when Big Chris's eyes lit up and was like, "Oh, there might be a shot." Yeah, no.
Because
man.
called for the ball and got to Kim in the tumboed. Well, I cannot wait to compete with you both. In no time at all, we'll all be down at the best weekend of the year. I can't wait for it, guys. But JD, thanks, seriously, man. Thanks. Like, we didn't have the result, but like your help was super beneficial. This has all been an incredible learning experience, and with kind of both of these conversations, like again, I think we're going into our next one with a ton of confidence. We really appreciate your help, seriously. Like you were with us all day as the little conductor telling us just to make pars all day.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys had fun. Glad you guys had a good experience overall, and you'll go play more. You'll get them next time.
Yeah,
We will.
Well, gentlemen, see you soon.
Choo choo.